Despite increased security over this past weekend in New York, the community remained determined to honor those lost on 9/11. While much of the pain from that Tuesday morning 10 years ago was too painful to discuss on camera for many people, I was able to speak with a few individuals who were willing to share their experiences with me.
I was in the Navy at the time, and I was stationed in Guam, which is interesting because Guam's 13 hours ahead, I think. So it was the other side of the day. It was like nighttime on 9/11. And immediately what we did was we the ship went to general quarters, and they did an emergency recall. So we started to call everybody that wasn't on the ship to get everyone to the ship. And as a navigator and operations officer, I started to kind of like plan for, these are three possible routes of where we could go. We tried to figure out if we had to get underway. We were going to go back to the States, if we were going to go to Japan, because we did often go to Japan. If we were going to take the ship and, head immediately from the Middle East to relieve the battle group that was there. It was interesting because I just did 5 years in the Navy, because that was my obligation. I kind of decided from the get-go that was what I wanted to do. And I had actually tendered my resignation, because as an officer you tender resignation to request to get out of the Navy. And I had actually tendered my resignation that morning prior to anything happening. So that was also bizarre.
I was living in Jersey City, right across the water, actually. And I woke up ready to go to work and didn't turn on the TV that morning when I left for work. And my neighbor was outside in the front yard. And she stopped me and said, "Where are you going?" And I, of course, hadn't watched TV, so I had no idea where I was going that day. I was going to work, and she said, "You need to go inside and turn on the television and take a look at what was going on." The first plane had gone in, and I turned it on time to see the second plane going to the towers. It was difficult. We didn't have access to the city for probably 7 or 8 days. I think the city is a kinder place as a result of it. The people who were living in New York at the time are certainly sympathetic to the heightened sense of emotion we get this time of year. I think people are nicer, or kinder, or more gentler to each other, particularly if you know they were here at that time.
This is the original 9/11 memorial, which most people don't realize. When the towers went down, everyone came to St. Vincent's looking for their families. And so there was a giant wall. Everyone's bringing their photos and looking for their loved ones. And this area was lined with people just waiting. And next door was a pottery shop. And Lori Vesey, my name is Mud, she started fashioning angels and doves and putting them on the fence. And pretty soon people started making tributes and putting tiles for their families.
I had originally planned on being down at the Century 21 department store, which was right next to the World Trade Centers that morning, to pick up something, and had sort of woken up late and decided I wouldn't go, and headed straight to my meeting, which was at 9. Was trying to call my father in Maryland to tell him that I was okay, and there was no answer, and I finally ended up getting my grandmother on the phone, and as soon as I said, "Grammy, it's Michael," her response was, "Oh, thank God," like immediately. And I said, "Just call everybody and let them know I'm okay. I don't know really anything else at the time." And then there were sort of these camps of people from the office that were at different people's apartments around the neighborhood, and we kept calling each other or walking over to other apartments just to get more reports. And that's when many of my friends started to hear about people that they knew, or in some cases their boyfriend or their husband were missing, or we didn't know. The experience for me was that it sort of went from this state of disbelief about what was going on when things originally happened to this sort of fear of, people reacting so quickly and not knowing what was going to happen, to this real sense of community. And I think, there were neighbors who had never met each other, who bonded over stories about what had happened to them, and sharing time together in a time of crisis. So, and I thought that was really interesting, that within days, here were people on the street that didn't know each other, that were, drinking wine out of the same bottle because they didn't know when they were going to go back to their apartment because we'd been evacuated. I find that people will stop and have a conversation, and you know more about them, so you have something to talk about, and there is this sense of more connectedness to people that is really interesting.
Reporting from New York City, this is Steve Fox with Washington Blade.